What if Galaxy AI could turn your to-dos into to-dos? Unlock everyday simplicity with the AI-integrated Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra at Best Buy. Pre-order now at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Hello, I am Kristen Russo.
And I am Jenny Owen Youngs.
We are the hosts of Buffering the Vampire Slayer once more with spoilers, a rewatch podcast covering all 144 episodes of, you guessed it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We are here to humbly invite you to join us for our 5th Buffy prom, which, if you can believe it, we are hosting at the actual Sunnydale High School. That's right. On April 4th and 5th, we will be descending upon the campus of Torrance High School, which was the filming location for Buffy's Sunnydale High, to dance the night away to 90s music in the iconic courtyard, to sip on punch right next to the Sunnydale High fountain, and to nerd out together in our prom best inside of the set of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
All information and tickets can be found at bufferingcast.com/prom. Come join us.
Hello and welcome to the second ever episode of Extended Play. This month we're playing Deus Ex, and this week is where we go to you, the listeners, the readers, and we ask you what you've thought of the game so far.
Yeah, we've got an awful lot of people emailing us from last week on the email address, which is extendedplay@ign.com.
That's memorable.
Yes, isn't it? Telling us what you think, having listened to us blather on about the game for a little while, but we've all got a little bit further than we had last week, obviously.
And some of the points have been we've kind of been a bit overwhelmed by the response.
Yeah, we're quite overwhelmed by how smart you all are. We knew you were smart. We knew that. We didn't doubt it for a second, but we're very impressed that you actually bothered to take the time to write us what you think.
We've been sent essays.
Yeah, actual essays.
And also some of them are better at games than us as well.
Yeah, probably quite a lot of them.
Right, let's move on with the first piece of feedback. Daniel.
The first bit of feedback is from David Pham. We think
that's Pham, David Pham.
And Scott Oodle, who's basically, last week we were talking about how we never saved the woman at the end of the first mission. And apparently you can save the woman at the end of the first mission by shooting faster. We're just too slow, Alex.
I don't believe that's true. I've got like ninja reflexes. I'm going to try again.
It's been pointed out by lots of people in the comments as well, just laughing at both of you
at us.
And how rubbish you are. I managed to save the woman, but the guy got away. But actually it turned out that the guy getting away wasn't such a bad thing. He comes back later and offers you
don't spoil that.
No, we're allowed to spoil.
Yeah, but that's spoiling it for me then.
So we're allowed to spoil the game, but not for you.
Well, that's good though, because that comes like one of the other things that we spoke about briefly last week was consequence. And it turns out that it does have a consequence depending what you do, rather than just it being, shallow.
Yeah, it mostly seems to be side missions, doesn't it? Like if you do or don't do something, then somebody will or won't offer you a side mission later on. But that's something. That's good.
Speaking of which, I do have an awful lot of side missions open at the moment. So
too many?
Well, I just ran around opening side missions, and now my kind of like HUD has got all these little blue things telling me to go left, right, and centre. I'm like, oh my god, which one do I do?
Another great feature of Deus Ex: you can turn any objective off at any point.
Okay.
Just nip into the menu, press X, and it'll deactivate it for a while. The only problem there is that you can then forget about it, as I did, and then leave Detroit and piss off to Shanghai, and everything gets wiped. Yeah, you can't do the side missions
before
anymore.
You get board with the helicopter, you get a little warning, but I was just impatient. I want to go to Shanghai.
Yep.
And I lost all my side missions.
I missed
Never
3.
mind.
Never mind. Deus Ex is becoming a bit of an obsession now for me, definitely. It's gone from,
It's a way of life now for you.
Yeah, it's gone from being something that I played for 4 or 5 hours in the evening to something that I didn't really sleep much on the weekend.
I saw you earlier on trying to pick up the fridge.
I was just trying to block the door with it.
You don't have that augment yet.
Exactly. I was just trying to block the door with it so that Alex couldn't get out. And
what, out of the fridge?
No, you put vending machines and fridges in front of doors. Yes. See? I underestimate your intelligence, Alex. Understanding what I'm doing with the fridge. Yes, one thing that we didn't actually discuss last time on purpose, because it's such a elephant in the room, was the boss fights.
Yeah.
Which I think we can all agree are terrible. Completely terrible.
Yeah.
And a lot of the feedback we've got has extolled Deus Ex's virtues as a game in many ways, but nobody can excuse the boss fights.
I think the boss fights are just contrary to the entire ethos of the game, because they're such a throwback.
Quite.
And they're just a bit of an anachronism. We've talked about this before, and we've had editorials in the last month on whether boss fights are kind of irrelevant anymore, or they're kind of a sticking point in modern games.
That's the thing. It did seem like stepping back in time, suddenly being in an arena with a guy with a machine gun for an arm.
And running around finding exploding canisters.
Exactly. It just felt like stepping back in time. And we've had some feedback from David Merritt, who asks us about this, about why we didn't discuss it. Did you enjoy the boss fights, he says? And do you think they might have been improved if they'd been integrated into the open framework of the rest of the game rather than the staged arenas? For example, if Barrett was another NPC that you had a secondary or primary objective to neutralise, and he was just wandering around a room barking orders and generally looking like Jack from Tekken. So I presume that what could have happened there is we could have had these whole scenarios with, you know, the bosses being guarded, and that might have worked a lot better, I think, David. I think you're quite right.
Rather than shoehorning it in a very traditional sense.
Indeed. He says part of what made the boss fight so distasteful was how alienating it felt to be dragged from what felt like quite an open experience into something incredibly limited.
That's the thing. When I first encountered Barrett, I tried to tackle him as I would any other character, and you just can't do it.
Because he just picks you up.
Just picks me up, and I was shotgunning him in the face repeatedly. Doesn't work. It only works if you throw the canisters, and just that's slightly demoralising.
It is stupid, isn't it?
It's the whole emptying 65 bullets into a guy until he falls over thing.
Yeah.
The only reason I managed to beat Barrett, because I mean this is something we're going to get to later, but I'm a stealth character, as you'll know if you listened last week, so I don't have any weapons. My inventory is filled with random stuff that I've picked up off people's desks, not heavy rifles. So I get to the boss battles and I'm completely useless.
So boring to me.
What sort of stuff have you
I don't have a machine pistol.
Secretaries, painkillers.
I do have a biro.
Bits of food, this kind of thing. But yeah, it's I get to a boss battle and I'm helpless. Like I don't have anything to help me because all I've got is a very nice silenced laser sight upgraded pistol and some stun gun darts.
Wow.
Which is really useful against someone like Barrett. The only way I managed to beat him was by throwing a gas canister at his face, and then he did his thing where he throws grenades everywhere, and he got unlucky. He threw them all right. They all bounced back right at him, and then he died. So I didn't hit him once.
That's occasionally happened to me in sort of next-gen boss battles. It happened in Gears of War. You play so many times, eventually you'll be helped out by the incompetence of the boss himself.
But so you couldn't stun him with your darts and...
No.
It's stupid. What is the point of that?
Well, there were lots of explosive things around the level, but I mean, the thought of having to go around and pick up barrels and... I mean, we're not going to spoil all the boss fights, but the second one's not much better. And the final one...
And I almost want to say, do you actually have to do it 3 times? I think I did do it 3 times, the magical 3 times.
I think he's just got a health bar.
That was my big problem with Batman Arkham Asylum, was, again, you had this amazing game, but really kind of by-the-numbers boss fights. Like the Killer Croc stuff was just, a missed opportunity.
I think that they're basically not needed anymore, boss fights, in anything but exceptional circumstances. Certainly not in this kind of game. Maybe in an FPS. Maybe in a Mario.
Yeah, in a Mario, I think it's acceptable.
Well, I think even less than an FPS, to be honest. So, anyway, I've got an email from Luis Medina, who actually liked the boss fights, mostly because they're hard. He says, unlike most games these days, the battles really made me struggle with the game. They forced me to analyse the patterns of the bosses, and they made me use my head. This is how a boss battle is supposed to be.
However, he does also point out what I did earlier, which is the battles are probably a lot easier for people that chose the combat style of play. I was hacking and stealthy, so my 10mm silence pistol was not too effective against the bosses. Neither was my tranquilizer rifle.
Which is exactly your problem.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing: it goes, as Daniel mentioned earlier, it's just antithetical to the whole idea of the game that it suddenly puts you into an arena and gives you no choice.
Yeah,
rubbish.
Because it is, in many ways, last week we were saying it's resistant to modern game conventions in so many ways, and in this instance, it just capitulates and goes, oh yeah, just hit him 3 times and he'll go down.
I think we can agree the boss battles are the thing that you have to forgive about Deus Ex, right?
Yeah, that's been a recurrent comment.
That's fine.
Should we move on to Augment?
Yes, let's talk about Augment.
Phil Nacum, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name.
Or Natchum.
Or Natchum. One issue I've noticed is the game really punishes you if you don't put points into hacking. Luckily, my hacking skills are maxed out, but it sort of takes away from the element of choice when one path is almost mandatory.
I've definitely found this.
I've had that problem. I'm at the moment, there's a gate that I'm pretty sure I need to get through, but I don't have the hacking skills to get through it, and it's just like, come on, don't make me go back and do some grinding to build up my hacking skills.
Yeah, I keep going into environments and getting quite far into whatever building I have to infiltrate, and there'll be a door that's level 5 or 6, and I'm only on 2 or 3, and I'm like, I don't want to come back here later.
I think sometimes they're there specifically to stop you from going into a place. Like, I don't know if you even can go back later. I mean, I've not. You can go back to the environments, but you can't go back to for instance, the side quests. There was a side quest I was doing in Shanghai, one of the last ones, where you got that total asshole who's murdered his girlfriend, and you're trying to expose him. And there's a bit where you have to complete the mission. You have to hack something.
Yeah.
And the level was fine, but it was just a particularly hard game. So I spent ages and ages trying to do it. Realised I couldn't, then had to go around, basically stunning people, stealing what was in their pockets, selling it so that I could buy another praxis point for myself from the limb clinic. And I just thought, this is ruining the game for me right now. Yeah. That was one of the few bad experiences I've had with Deus Ex, being an hour and a half just trying to save up 5,000 credits.
Yeah, because the bit that I got stuck on is a side mission. So it was offered to me, and I thought, right, I'll go and do this side mission. And then there's this gate. And I have looked all the way around to see if there's an alternative route, and there's not for the life of me.
Is that the gate? Is it near the basketball court?
Oh,
because I think I got a couple of dumpsters and cardboard boxes. And can you go over the top?
Yes.
It looks like you can. Yes.
Yeah, I basically made something that resembled something out of Jenga.
Did you? Right, okay.
Scaled it.
Oh, see, I did try moving. I tried moving one of the dumpsters, but it's too heavy for me.
It does make you wary about complaining about anything about Deus Ex, doesn't it? Because we're going to get someone writing in to go, "Oh, you didn't do it. There's a way you could do it."
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that in itself was quite impressive, I think.
But it's weird because I've just spent quite a lot of time playing Arkham City, and obviously you get the flexibility to go flying and using your grappling hook. And now this, even if you fall from not a very particularly high height, he dies.
Unless you have the extremely useful Icarus augment, which is my favourite augment.
I don't have that.
There you had to get the Icarus.
I love the Icarus. I bought it early on, which was a mistake. I bought it early on because I'm just terrible at finding my way around. In real world ending games, I have no sense of direction.
Yeah.
So I would get very frustrated in Shanghai and basically end up just jumping off bridges in order to get below.
Yeah.
So I got the Icarus enhancement just to kind of compensate for my own lack of directional capability. Right. But it's very cool looking. The animation is great, but it's totally useless, and I needed my praxis points for stuff, and I was very angry with myself. But then, towards the end of Shanghai, there's a bit where there's a huge long vent that you have to drop down that you can only do if you have Icarus. So I was validated in my choice.
Does it give you kind of hints that you need to get that upgrade, or is it purely down to you to kind of think, how the fuck am I going to do this?
Usually you have to look around, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think it's usually. It doesn't usually state or signpost you need this augment.
No, it doesn't.
No, but so is that the only way to do that part of the game then?
Oh, no. You can go around different ways. You can go around the back. Fine. You can go along the floor. I mean, but the particular way I did it was the easiest way.
Yeah.
Drop down the vent and you're there.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I'd happened to buy Icarus. So it sometimes does that, doesn't it? It rewards you for choices that you made ages and ages ago.
Gotcha. Michael Gregory says, do you find that by the end of the middle difficulty that you're overpowered because of the large amount of praxis kits you have? Also, do you guys have any augmentations that you have found invaluable? Well, obviously, the Icarus.
Icarus for me.
Icarus, what was it? Icarus Wings?
It's Icarus, it was Icarus Augmentation, I think. Icarus Fall System or something.
Yeah, gotcha. He says social augmentation for him, and also hacking.
The pheromones are funny, aren't they?
I just go for strength. Like really, really hard man.
Just so you can carry lots as well.
Put a really basic lock in front of him, he just scratches his head there. Just pull my gun out and shoot it.
In social situations whatsoever, but God, look at your muscles.
And also, I do have a machine pistol with as much ammo as I could afford. Shoot your way through the lock. Come on. Daniel, are there any orgs that you felt were invaluable?
Well, initially I sort of meted them out quite evenly, but then when I kept coming up against doors that I couldn't get through, I kind of piled them all into hacking. And I found it quite useful to be able to see which nodes would, the percentage of me being detected. Depending on the node, I was able to plan my hack more sort of tactically, which I found incredibly useful.
Yeah. Or apparently there are orgs that only matter in very specific situations, as Scott Udall points out. Electricity immunity, which is invaluable for second and final boss fights. But next to useless elsewhere in the game.
Yeah, Icarus was a bit like that.
Or if you want to get into the police station at the beginning, that would have been easy with the electricity augment.
Yeah, there are two boss fights that make electricity invulnerability. You just, it makes life loads easier for you. But sometimes you do feel like, oh, for heaven's sake, I've got to this situation where I need this one augment that I'm not going to need in any other way ever again.
Spending all your points.
Yeah, it can be frustrating.
Are you trying to imply that they created a cool looking boss and then retro, like sort of backwards engineered an augment?
I think so. Because in what other context is electricity and vulnerability going to be any use to anyone? Logan Wamsley has something to say on the subject of augments as well. He says, in light of the game's emphasis on choice, promoting all different playstyles, I found the augmentation upgrade system somewhat limiting. While you consistently upgrade yourself, you definitely feel like a badass, but you never get the idea that you're actually sacrificing one augment for another. The most meaningful choices are those where there's both a reward and a sacrifice. If by the middle of the game or so I've covered all the basic augmentations for all the different playstyles, I don't feel like I really sacrificed anything.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it's more towards the end of the game that you just feel overpowered.
Yeah.
But that's an open world quandary, isn't it? It happens in Oblivion or anything like that as well. You just get to the point where you've got too many skills.
Well, if you're going to take the time out, it was the same to some extent in Borderlands as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You take the time to kind of grind your way up and make yourself better. Ultimately, it makes the game, like by the end of Borderlands, it was just easy. Like none of the bosses were challenging, so... and I haven't got that far in Deus Ex, so I don't know if it's... But it feels like Deus Ex forces you to make some decisions, whereas Borderlands, I was just ultra tough.
So how powerful are you at the moment, Keza?
I'm ludicrously powerful in some areas and totally unpowerful in others. I'm deficient in... I don't have any leg augments. I can't run very far. I've got no extra health. I've got no extra toughness. I've got no extra speed. I just have extremely highly developed hacking and stealth augmentation stuff, so I can see all the cones of vision and things.
Do you think it should be a trade-off then, that you shouldn't be able to power up everything, or? Yeah,
I think you should have to choose. Yeah. But then the problem that the game design then runs into is if it says, oh, you made that decision, and then you come up at a bit of the game later where you fancy doing something different, then the game's dictating to you, isn't it?
Mm.
Have you found there's a conflict at any point between what you want to be and what you have to put your Parks's points into?
Not so far. I feel like I've gone down one particular way. I think I've not gone shooting like you. I've not gone all out combat, and I've not gone all out stealth. So I'm somewhere in the middle, and I find it quite frustrating. For instance, way at the beginning when I was trying to infiltrate the police station, I wasn't sufficiently stealthy to bypass everyone, so I alerted the guards. But then I wasn't sufficiently powered up to take all the guards on. So I just did it again and again and again, and I was somewhere caught in the middle, and I was actually quite worried that I wasn't going to be able to progress and get down to the morgue. I thought I was actually stuck on floor 1 of the police station forever.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because I didn't make a strong choice either way.
Does the game force you into a strong choice?
For me, not at the moment, but I'm not as far as you guys. So
See, I think I was punished for not choosing one or the other because I had fairly limited ammunition. I was just collecting what I could get off guards. But I wasn't stealthy enough to get through any doors or sneak past people.
I've got to the point where I'm just reloading anytime a fight happens now.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm spotted, I'm just like, reload.
Yeah.
Which, well, I suppose that's good because basically there are 3 branches, I think, of Deus Ex. There are 3 options. There's stealth combat, and combat. And stealth, obviously, is not being seen. Stealth combat is using an awful lot of things like stun guns, tranquilizers, a lot of not non-violent, but also not just Ramboing about. Yeah. And then there's combat.
Yeah.
But I'm finding, like, for instance, about 3/4 of the items in the game are useless to me. All the ammo and all the weapons that I'm picking up, I've got no reason to use them, so I just end up selling them.
Give them to me. I need more ammo and more weapons.
I think that's quite true. Quite a lot of games, by the end of the game, you're quite familiar with the weapons and the ammunition, and you have your favourites. Whereas in Deus Ex, I don't have a strong attachment to any of the weapons. It's just stuff that I'm accumulating, and I ditch it. And whereas in something like Gears of War, I'm like, I know this gun because there's only like 4 or 5 weapons.
Yeah.
And you have a strong attachment to each one. Like, oh god, great, ammo for this one. Whereas in Deus Ex, it's very ad hoc. Oh, ditch that, move on.
My no killing anyone policy is taking a bit of a turn since we last spoke.
You had a massacre.
Well, there was a bit in Shanghai where there's this group of evil pimps that basically force women to get augmented so that they can whore them out.
Yeah.
Killed all of them. Killed them all right in the head and threw them off buildings.
Racist.
Unbelievable.
There was a bit
only
as well.
In China do you go AWOL.
Yes, only there. Only in Shanghai. No one I know is ever going to find out, are they?
No.
That's totally fine. But they
deserved it, to be fair.
Yeah, I also accidentally threw a fire extinguisher at someone's head and it killed them.
That happens in real life, just so you know, around the office.
Don't throw that fire extinguisher around, Kaz. That's probably going to kill. I didn't know they were lethal weapons.
What, fire extinguishers?
Yeah.
Okay, if you were whacked on the head with it, That's smart.
I suppose they're pretty heavy, aren't they?
We had enough of fire extinguishers?
Probably.
Right, we've had a lot of feedback on emergent narrative and the believability of the world. I think the consensus is that it's the game's main strength. Michael Shea's written in and he said, when good storytelling is combined with good gameplay, it creates an experience you can only get from gaming. It's how truly effective a video game can be and illustrates the potential it could reach. And he also mentions, everyone talks about Blade Runner influencing Deus Ex, but he also thought the game was highly influenced by Metal Gear, which is one of his favourite franchises of all time.
Yours too, Alex, right?
Metal Gear, yeah, but I don't really see that many similarities. I don't know.
Apart from that it's a stealth game.
Yeah, and the video cameras.
But I think the story, though, I think he's talking about the story and the style, the stylistic element of the thing.
Yeah, but Metal Gear's story is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Deus Ex is rather less nonsensical. Yeah, Metal Gear makes no sense. Deus Ex does at least make sense, but it has the same kind of rebellious, cyberpunky... It's got a lot of big robots on two legs. Metal Gear has that too.
Yes. I did start... I tried to play the stealth in the same way that I would play a Metal Gear game in terms of stealth. And it's a little bit different, and I think that's why I ended up just going the gun route. Because in Metal Gear, I'm very much like you, like stun gun and sneak past people and do all that kind of stuff. But I think I'm trying to play it like a Metal Gear game, and it's not quite the same. The stealth is slightly different, which is why I always get detected. So, but again, maybe that's down to an augment, because I know that you can get augments that kind of show you the kind of field of visions of the guards and all that kind of stuff.
It does get a lot better
with Metal Gear, you get gadgets that sort of show you their where they are and all that kind of stuff. So
I still think the first mission is the hardest mission of the game to not be seen in.
Yeah,
there's a tutorial one where you're
mission,
where you're infiltrating, trying to get the Typhoon back. That's the hardest game. That's been the hardest mission by far for me in my playstyle.
I found the police station quite difficult, quite taxing. I think Tom did as well. He was in there for hours.
Yeah,
he was in there for about 4 hours.
I ran straight through the police station. I think I got lucky. After
literally sprinting straight through. Well, everyone was like, "What was that?"
My favourite bit of the police station was I basically slaughtered everyone in the police station because
that's terrible. They're just poor, hardworking civilians.
I had no option. I was sneaking around for about 4 hours and I lost it. I just massacred them. And then when I walked past the guy who's on the desk at the front, he hadn't even noticed. He was still at his desk.
Well, he's the guy you're supposed to talk to get in. That would have been a smarter option.
Just bypass him and just gun everyone down.
I spoke to him at the beginning, but he was having none of it. He wasn't letting me in.
Oh, I thought he was one of the easy talk me down people.
I think it was too aggressive.
Just gun in the face.
Let me in.
What was this, a police station?
Let me in. Although I would be quite intimidated if Jensen started asking me to do things for him. I'd probably just let him do whatever he wanted. Whoa. That wasn't the implication I wanted from that.
Let's move on.
One of the things about the narrative, people seem to think that the gameplay and the narrative are usually in competition with each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
Does Deus Ex manage to synthesize those things properly to make them not in competition? Does it have both the great gameplay and the great narrative?
In terms of narrative, something I noticed recently was I found quite jolting is sometimes you have conversation scenes in the third person, sometimes in the first person. Have you noticed that?
I haven't noticed that.
Conversation scenes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In the kind of boss ones where you have to talk someone down.
For instance, when you come back and you encounter Sarif and you talk to him about why there was a kind of a loophole built into
a security leak.
Security system, why there was an avenue for hackers to get in. That's all in the first person, but most of the conversations take place in the third person.
Yeah.
And I found that quite strange. I found that quite jolting.
Yeah, I think it's the boss ones, isn't it? I say boss ones, boss conversations.
Yeah.
Where you have to really make an effort to read what they're saying, what they're thinking from their face, which I can never really do particularly well.
That.
You're not really good at it?
No. Well, it's just like me in real life. I'm not a conversationalist.
No.
Just get on with it.
You're basically autistic.
He's autistic.
Exactly. Yeah.
He didn't get very far in LA Noire.
With a passion for guns.
It's a good combo.
Excellent. Bakir Reza sent us in a great YouTube video, which sort of pisses all over the Deus Ex's realism, which shows Jensen in the police station trying to hack something, and the guard's like, "Hey, what you doing?" He goes away and he just builds a fort out of cardboard boxes so that the guard can't see him and then goes in and hacks it.
That's brilliant.
It's really good. Oh, of course, you can always ruin a game if you really try, but that made me giggle.
That is ridiculous, isn't it?
The game doesn't crumble like that often, though, does it?
But when it does,
it's extremely funny.
Yeah, but well, while the world itself might be great, I don't like Adam Jensen. Neither does Mark Purcell.
Yep, he wrote in. He's in the written feature. His full comments are in the written thing that's accompanying this podcast. But I don't mind Jensen. I just think he's got the whole video game character problem of being a total schizo, depending on how you play with him.
Yeah, I just think every line he delivers in a very similar fashion as well. Whether he's happy, whether he's trying to placate someone or he's trying to antagonise them, it's almost delivering the same kind of gruff, slightly Clint Eastwood-esque tone.
I'd really like a glass of milk.
Yeah.
Would you? Or are you taking the piss out of me? That's it. You can't tell. And I just find him quite alienating.
Like even like in one of the earlier bits where you get to speak to the mother of your girlfriend who was killed early on.
Oh yeah.
And she's, can you investigate further? And I thought, well, what do I get out of it? And she was like, oh my God, I didn't know you were that kind of person. And then I just changed my tack completely. But again, there's no emotion there. And again, she totally forgot what I said about 5 seconds earlier. She was like, oh, thank you for doing this. Well, hang on, a minute ago, I was like, give me some cash for doing this.
I think what should have happened is she'd have been like, well, no, screw you.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have been able to do the quest.
Yeah,
that would have
exactly, yeah.
That would have smacked you around the head of it.
I was just like, testing the water, see how far I can push it. Give me all the jewels you're wearing, then I'll think about it. I know she was my girlfriend of 6 years, but...
but I want some nice diamonds.
She's dead now.
She's dead now, and I've turned, in my grief, I've turned to material things.
I want some sweet augments.
Yes.
Right, that's enough about Jensen, and it's probably enough for the second episode of Extended Play.
Yeah, we've done a lot of talking.
A lot of talking. And next week, James Swallow will be joining us, one of Human Revolution's writers.
This is a big deal, people.
Is it quite a big deal?
Yeah, he's going to be coming in to respond to everything that we and you have said about Deus Ex.
Yeah.
And also give us some insight, hopefully, into how the game's actually written.
Yeah, so if you have any specific questions for James, email us at
extendedplay@ign.com.
Easy. So that's it for this week, and we'll be back with James Swallow next week for the next part of Extended Play Deus Ex Human Revolution. Bye.
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 Legends. Long have legends inspired people the world over. For in legends, we see the worlds of the impossible unfold before us.
Heroic quests, horrific monsters, gods, magic, tales of the valiant and the villainous. But more than that, in legend, we see ourselves reflected in the stories we tell.
I'm William Stark.
And I'm Omar Timsaw.
And we are D&D Legends and Lore. Join us as we explore the fantastic lore of the world's most popular tabletop RPG. Suddenly, a beam of radiant light pierces the haze. Then, a powerful angel streaks down from above. She is pure beauty, fury, and zeal.
Arashni, your sentence has been spoken by the Sildarine. For what you have done, you are declared demon. Be what you are, and go where you must. You can find D&D Legends and Lore on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts can be found.
Hey folks, we're the hosts of Comic Sans, the podcast about comics for those who are sans knowledge. I'm Yen, a reader, writer, liver, and breather of comic books.
And I'm Nat. I used to know absolutely nothing about comics, but now...
So actually, I've got a quiz for you.
I still have a lot to learn about comics.
Thank you. On Comic Sans, I make Nat read some of my favorite works in the medium, including Saga, Daredevil, and The Flintstones.
And Yen talks about what makes that comic special. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's...
Paneling, gutters, page turns, colorings, lettering, semiotics, juxtaposition.
Okay, Professor, save it for the episodes.
You can listen to Comic Sans on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can binge our first 2 seasons. That's over 20 episodes on 20 different comics.
And we just launched Season 3, new episodes every 2 weeks.